Hello everyone, my name is Christian and welcome to my hobby blog. I'm very excited today because we are doing our very first, I did not realize this, but our very first director spotlight for the Withering Watchpile series. It is a very exciting episode for me because I'm a huge fan of Jess Franco, but before we get into all of that, I want to welcome back Cultflixfix24 to the channel. How has it been?
It's been good, man. Thanks for having me again, Christian. And it's always a good time. And I'm excited to go through, like you said, our very first director spotlight kind of reviews. And this is an interesting one I don't know too much about. So I'm eager and excited and curious at the same time to dig into this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So Jess Franco, because I chose the topic, I was really wanting, because I have many Jess Franco movies. I have about 20, I believe, and I'll show them off in a second. But Jess Franco is somebody who has always impressed me as a director because he has done, and I looked up the official number, but it's around the 173 movies that he directed himself
Mm.
and created in like a 60-year span. And it is absolutely impressive that he was able to do that. And the way that he was able to do this is that he always paired up a shooting movie with a secret hidden movie that he did not tell the producer that he was making, using the same actors, crew, everything, and would even reuse scenes from that original movie that he was being paid to make to put it into his other movie as sort of like filler kind of shots, like at the beach or somebody driving down the road or somebody looking in at a window or something. And he will reuse a lot of that. And so a lot of actors, they got sort of angry with Jess Franco later on because they discovered that they had technically been in like 8 different movies when they acted in like 2 of them, because both of those movies were just like extracted as much as it could be, and a lot of actors weren't getting paid for these extra movies that Jess Franco was making. And I'm not sure how it resolved that whole issue of pay, but I assume it went well because everyone has just so many great things to say about Jess Franco. And he was born in 1930, and this is just something I looked up, but he died at the age of 83 in 2013, so it's pretty recent. And I didn't realize it, but it was about 2 months ago is when he died, 10 years ago. So we're right near the 10-year anniversary of his death.
Mm.
And so I thought that was very interesting, our timing. That happens a lot on the Withering Watchpile.
Yeah, it's the same with what's his name from the Batman series, the voice of his. It was like
Mm.
on his close to his death. Kevin, is it Kevin Conroy?
Oh,
Kevin
yeah,
Conroy, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of odd too that we just hit it now with Franco a little few months off on this too. What a coincidence.
Oh, yeah. And what's really cool about Jess Franco is that, for me at least, I really love his style of his films. They are so unique. His shot compositions are always weird. He really makes use of the handheld camera to really get into the face of every actor. And it is so fun to sort of spot the little Jess Franco touches in all of his films. Because some of his films he did not direct as a first director. He was brought in later to kind of clean up the movie and, just get it working together. And even in those films, you still see some Jess Franco cinematography where he came in later to add some more padding to the runtime, because they'll probably have like an hour of footage, but he still needs about 10 or 15 minutes in order to meet the sort of limit or the minimum runtime for it to be considered a feature film, which is, I think, an hour and 15 minutes usually. And along with that, he's very consistent as a director, even from his
Yeah.
earliest movies to his latest movies. They're pretty much around what you expect. And some movies really rise
Mm,
above that, and I don't think there are any Jess Franco movies that I dislike. Some of them I really do not engage with, and they just do not capture my uh, attention. But they aren't bad; they're just not for me. And for a director who has made 173-ish films, I mean that's pretty fucking good to have such a track record of consistency. But one of the last things I want to talk about is how I really love his collaborations with people, because he has many different phases of his career where he started in the 50s. And I have a lot of his 50s films, and that's where I started with because they're very fucking good. That's when he was really having to prove that he's a good director and can make a movie on budget and on time, everything. And with his 50s movies, they're totally different from the 60s. And the 70s are totally different from the 60s, and so on, so on. And the reason that is that he always has like a central unit of collaborators working with him in every sort of decade. And one of the people who was the most collaborative was his wife, that he was, I think it's his second wife. Her name is Lena Romay, and she died just a few years before he died. But she had starred in 109 Jess Franco films over 30 years, and they didn't get married until the 2000s. So she was in the majority of his hardcore films, which I've seen like two of them, and I mean they're fine. They're like every other hardcore film, but it's really interesting that his wife was the one who he ended up finding a muse for, because he has different actors who he has, like Howard Vernon in the 1950s, who was always the main cast in all these different weird medical horror films. And Lena Romay was somebody who was there for the longest time in his career, about half of his career, because he worked from the 50s into the 2010s. He was still making films when he died. I mean, this guy was very
wow.
impressive. I have a lot of respect for him. But
Mm,
he has also worked with masterclass actors like Orson Welles, Christopher Lee. Um, oh my God. I had the guy's name in my head and I can't remember it, but
Klaus Kinski, man.
yes,
Klaus
that's
Kinski.
that's him, Klaus Kinski. I always
Yeah,
forget his name every time we do one of these
yeah.
episodes. In my head, I'm like, I have his face, I know his name, but yeah, he's worked with a million people, and he was hired on to create one of the weirdest adaptations I've heard of, Treasure Island, because he got brought on to direct Orson Welles, one of the greatest actor directors of cinema history. And Jess Franco, the guy who does like sexploitation, woman in camp films, body horror, and the early like medical horror films that he's done. Like he directed Orson Welles, and he even had a pretty short collaboration with Christopher Lee. And I have one of his films later, but yeah, like I just have a huge love for Jess Franco. But do we want to go into what you think of him and then show my collection, or show my collection and then see what you think?
I could go in real quick. It's just real brief, so
Yeah.
it's not a lot. So no, I kept saying while we were watching these films, did I just suddenly become a Jess Franco fan? Because I got into it because I don't know too much about him, but yeah, I got hooked to his movies. They're just interesting, and like you said, the collaborations, and that's interesting. You said about like how he brings back scenes to other movies with actors and all that, because it reminded me a lot of like Al Adamson or Randy Milligan. I put him right there with those guys. I right away thought Al Adamson, because he's known infant, like not in a good way for doing that, but he's it reminded me a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, he's very unique and he has his own style, which I love, and I was really impressed with it. I mean, it's not perfect. They're not perfect movies by far, but they'll keep you interested. It kept me intrigued, and I think I'm because I always pass his films. I go to Severin Cells and I'd be not, nah, that's not my type of thing. No, it's a little too much pornish for me or something. No. I'd pass a movie, and I think I'm kind of regretting that now. So, because I mean, I could watch a porn film if it has a story to it. It's not just, you know, cringy or raunchy all through it. But I mean, he does put a story to his kind of hardcore porn movies, and yeah, I like the casting too, as well as you brought up all those names. There's a lot of interesting actors and actresses during his film, and I didn't know that was his wife. I saw her in a couple films, and I'm like, well, she is a sight to see. So I do get the way he puts his films, but yeah, it's on all in all. I think I'm more interested, and I think I will pick up more films by him. That's all I got to say there.
Yeah, I remember when I guess I'll show it in a second, but there was a movie that I reviewed for the Vinegar Syndrome subscriber 2022 subscription. And it's called Two Undercover Angels. And I remember I was watching it because I'd seen one other Jess Franco movie called Vampiros Lesbos. That one I just did not engage with at all. I had no idea what I was watching. It's such a weird movie. And that is not where I would ever suggest anybody to start with Jess Franco. I would recommend his early stuff, or I guess maybe his 70s work, but not Vampiros Lesbos. But I remember watching Two Undercover Angels. That's the release, and I was watching the behind the scenes, and everything just kind of clicked together into why Jess Franco is such a great director, and it's because of all the reasons we've said. But I'm gonna not show the ones I haven't reviewed yet, but there are like 6 movies that I have here from Severin,
Uh,
which I guess I'll just show the backs of them. You'll see the back of one of the slipcovers. She killed in ecstasy, but
okay,
the other ones I haven't talked about yet on the channel. But
okay.
just my luck, we have another Severin sale coming up in like a few weeks. So now that I'll finally
Mm-hmm.
be done with those, I can just buy 10 more because they're always like $5 to $10 per Jess Franco film. You can do an entire haul of just Jess Franco. But all I've seen so far, for those who haven't watched my channel or who are new, I've seen Diabolical Dr. Z or Dr. Z. I'm not sure what the pronunciation of that. That's one of his 1950s ones. It's a very good one. I've also seen The Awful Dr. Orloff, which is my favorite of Jess Franco's. It's probably his most competent and very well done, along with the Jess Franco touches that you see in his later films. But I also have a film that I can't really show too much, but it's Chebril de Patou. This is a French hardcore sex film he made. I can't show too much of that because it's full nudity. But and the first Jess Franco film I ever saw was Vampiros Lesbos. I bought this in a Severin sale in like 2016, 2017 maybe. And I also have a really old like Severin DVD of Rafifi in the City and Death Whistles the Blues. These are a really good double feature, but on their own, it's really hard to kind of engage with. But as a double feature, they fit really well together. And my second to last movie is Two Female Spies in Flowered Panties. This is a very weird movie. I reviewed it on my channel, and I have no memory of what this movie is about. But I enjoyed it. It's a good Jess Franco movie. It's from the 70s. And then we have Two Undercover Angels and Kiss Me Monster, which is the Vinegar Syndrome release. But that was around the time when I really started to understand the appeal of Jess Franco. And all of my movies that I chose tonight, I did not choose on purpose, but all of them fit between 1980 and 1983. All 5 films of mine fit within that 3 year stretch. So, yeah. Shall I go first?
Yeah, go for it. You can lead off, man.
All right. So, my first movie that I have, which I put out of order for some awful reason. Let me fix that real quick. So the first
Are we
movie,
gonna go like are we gonna go movie each, like movie you, movie me, or
yep,
how are we doing this?
we'll go back and
Okay.
forth, least favorite to favorite. So,
Okay. So like you'll go, then I'll go.
yep,
Like okay. Just
yeah.
trying to get the order here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So the first movie I watched was a movie from well, this is actually the second movie that I watched, but this is a film from 1982 that I did not really care for. This is one that I don't consider bad. I just did not engage with it at all. And this is a film called Cries of Pleasure. This is
Hmm.
one of his many sexploitation films that he had made, so you can
Oh
kind of
well.
see the cover. But it's very sex focused. But the story of the movie is that a married man invites a woman to his house to live with him, just before the arrival of his wife, who is coming back from a mental asylum. It's a very cool sounding plot, but it's a whole lot of sex the entire movie, which I'm not against. I enjoy my sexploitation Jess Franco movies, but after you've seen a few, you've kind of seen them all, and it really depends on your mood if you're in the mood to watch another sexploitation Jess Franco movie. I was not while watching this. I had no idea what these movies were. I had them up on a horizontal stack, kind of like this, and I was just grabbing from the left, and I just went one by one on my list. And this was the first one that I grabbed. I didn't look at the story or anything. But this movie starts with a guy playing a guitar to the audience, to us. He's like facing the camera. He's playing the guitar, and the camera's zooming in, and it's really developing sort of the atmosphere and mood of the movie. And part of the title crawl, and this was something that I was really interested in, is that this movie is supposedly an adaptation of a Marquis de Sade storyline. And of course, as I said that, I realized that I did not bring over his most famous adaptation, or at least Marquis de Sade's most infamous adaptation, which is Salo, the 150 Days of Sodom. That was an original story by this author from like the 1600s. He was arrested in a French prison for about 5 years, I believe, during one of the very turbulent times of revolution that was happening in France. And he ended up being arrested because he wrote just really transgressive material, including the Salo 120 Days of Sodom. And even today, that is still banned in like hundreds of countries because it's a really depraved piece of work. And I don't say that in a demeaning way, it is. And this movie is based on a different play of his, which I don't know. I didn't watch the behind the scenes of it, but I have a feeling that it was more of a quite literally a sexploitation story that he wrote, which is more about exploiting women, because that's what his stories were really focused on. And Salo was sort of the use of sex as an exploitation tool. And it's really interesting. I love that movie. I know why people don't, but I think it's a very interesting opening discussion to have with other film goers, because it's a very challenging movie. This movie isn't, though, and I keep going off into Salo because I'd rather talk about that. But the first few scenes of this movie doesn't have a single kill, which is fine. I just did not realize I was watching a sexploitation movie. It said Cries of Pleasure, I think, was the name, so I should have known that was like sexploitation, but there were no kills, really. There was a body in the pool at some point. This movie was a lot different in terms of his sexploitation movies, and that it is a lot more psychosexual. And that's sort of what makes the movie more for me, and why I'm not like, oh, I dislike this movie or anything. It just didn't work for me. But I really like the psychosexual part. And one thing about Jess Franco that really confounds me as a film goer is that the first half of it either makes it or breaks it for me. And it's up to the final half for me to commit to a rating, because the first half is always underwhelming to me, but but Jess Franco always comes in at the end and just blows it out the water. And this movie is exactly the same, and that is very middling for about the first half, and then starts building. All of these movies that I will talk about tonight are this way, where it starts off pretty like okay, and then it just gets so much better, and I love it. But this movie, it sort of ends not interestingly, in my opinion. It's fine, but that's why it's on the bottom. I mean, I'm struggling here to find anything else to say.
Yeah, I've seen that one on the Severin website, but I didn't pick it up. I need to look. You said it's not very good. No, not one of his best, but
No, I mean it's
yeah.
consistent. I mean,
Oh
if you're
yeah.
into his sexploitation, you'll probably like it. I mean,
Hmm.
it has everything good about Jess Franco. It's just that first half just really I didn't engage with it. It's a really cool story though. I mean, but it's really just all three of them having sex with each other. The entire movie. There's really no drama going on between his wife and like his new lover that just shows up one day.
Yeah, that's like his films. They go. I agree with you. They start off and build up, and you're like, I don't know, and then he goes out with a bang towards the second half. He'll get you invested story wise. So I get where you're saying going with that one.
hmm So
But
yeah, I don't have much else. If you want to start on your first.
okay, well, it's probably going to be similar to yours. I didn't really care for this film that much, but I mean it wasn't bad. It's just I mean you get the hint on a budget, but I did a my first movie is going to be 1980s Devil Hunter, and it's in a 2-pack. It has Cannibal Terror as well, but that's not a Franco film. But Devil Hunter, um, I got this on the Severance sale for really cheap. It's it's a hilarious film. I laughed. I mean, I laughed through this film, and you'll hear me say that a lot in these films. But it's like a good laugh. You know what I mean? You get a kick out of it. But it starts with a La Vamba song from Richie Valens in this movie, so I was already laughing. So it's you hear it over and over, and it just builds up to a scene. But I mean, this the acting in this film is, I mean, it's just so bad. It reminded me of like friends talking to each other. Like I could be with friends and we'd be saying the same shit like to each other and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a hilarious film. It's pretty good though. It's kind of like a if you get like a lower budget Cannibal Holocaust, this is it, but done really bad. But I mean, I still had a fun with it. The gore's good. I mean, you got like these low life crooks that are trying to make money, so they decide to kidnap a little girl from a wealthy couple, and they say they're taking them to the jungle, but it's a border. I don't know what. It's funny because they keep saying jungle, but it's like a border, like where you go like to another country, and I guess there's cannibals living in the border. Want to ravish people or eat them. I don't know. It comes out of nowhere, but it's funny because the tribe's like they're white dudes. They look nothing like a tribe. There's just like white dudes painted, like running in the hippie era and shit like that. But it's, it's that's why I mean where the laughing comes. But yeah, when it does get down to it, though, they're munching those bodies. I like it. You get the gore and the intestines coming out and stuff like that, which I did like that. It's it's funny because the I mean they keep saying they're going to an island, but I just get a forest. I don't know. It's like somewhere you'd go fishing. I don't know, and cannibals are jumping out at you on the river. So, but it kept me intrigued. You get your sleeves. It's a little more tame. You do get your skin though, like boobs, and there's a rape scene too. That's not very good, but I didn't care for that. But other than that, you do get a solid story. I mean, this wasn't bad. It's just at the lower level of my films. And then of course it gets to the end and you hear the La Bamba song again. So I'm like, oh my, he really had a knack for that song during this movie. So
he,
it's a overall I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's worth a watch. I had it at a 2.5. I raised it a little bit because how you said the ending, it built up towards the ending a little more and gave me that notch. But yeah, this is your average film. Worth a watch though. It's a 1980s Devil Hunter.
yeah, I've never seen that one. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it, and I don't think I've heard like any like one side or the other kind of like feeling about it. It just seems like one of those like, yeah, it's a Jess Franco. Like, it's Jess Franco. Like, you know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, it's a mess, but in a good way. Like, I mean, it still had parts where I'm like laughing out loud. I don't know why, but well, I explained some of them, but yeah, I mean, it's one to get you by. You're drinking beers with your friends or messing around. It's a good one to throw on and just
Mm-hmm.
laugh at, I guess. But yeah, that's all I got on that one. You're all set to go to your next movie there. Do you have
Cool.
any? You want to say anything on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have too much really to talk about Devil Hunter, but my next one was actually the one I watched tonight, and it's the only horror movie that I saw for this part, but for this spotlight, because I don't know. I was just grabbing it each time, and I was like, huh, 1980. Oh, 1981. Oh, 1980. Oh, 1983. Oh, 19. You know, and I wasn't paying attention to the title. So I put in the movie, and the title would come up, and it would say, like, you know, Cries of Pleasure. And I'd be like, oh, okay, it's a sexploitation. All right. Gotta reframe my entire mind. So when I chose this one, I specifically chose it, and it ended up being another sexploitation movie. So I was a little tweaked by it, but it's still pretty good. This is my number 4 spot, but this is Jess Franco's 1982 film, Mansion of the Living Dead, which has an awesome cover. It's probably the best thing about this movie, in my opinion. But it's still really good in terms of the scale of Jess Franco. But this movie is your very typical group of people go to a deserted island and they get killed off one by one. That's the entire movie. You have seen it a million times, and it's one of my favorite sort of things that Jess Franco does, and what we see a lot in the 1970s and 80s exploitation movies. I mean, we were talking about Anthropophagus twice now on the channel, once with me and once you talked about it. Or no, Will, I think, talked about it in the Italian horror.
Farewell, yeah.
And every time, like, that's like the quintessential people going to an island and getting killed off one by one. I think that's the best movie for that. And this movie does that, but it is mostly a sexploitation movie with lesbian characters. And this is something that Jess Franco does a lot, is that he has a lot of queer characters who are gay, non-binary, lesbian, trans. He represents all of them, and that is a director who is really the only one who did that, especially in these times from the 50s all the way to the 2010s. But this movie is focused specifically on a group of 4 lesbian women who secretly all love each other, but who all work together as go-go dancers. And they have been granted vacation to go onto this island because they've been working at this topless bar for about 4 or 5 years, they say in the movie. And they get to the island, and things are not as they seem, as they are in every single one of these Lost Island movies. And the concierge is super creepy, and he's like, oh, 4 women, y'all can't stay in the same room because we have so many guests. And it's like a fucking ghost town. Like, nobody is there. Like, even the lights aren't on. And these women are just so gullible. But, you know, a movie has to happen. So, you know, the characters are written very stupidly. And they're hanging out. And they're like, where is everybody? And there's literally a guy, like, sitting down drunk on the beach. Like, leaned up against, like, an overturned canoe. And he's, like, out, like, right there in front of them. Like, you can see them standing there, and they pan over, and there he is, like, ooh, like, as if he's hiding. But I'm like, he's, like, sitting down, and they're all, like, sitting, like, standing. Like, how do they not see this guy? But he happens to hear them say, like, oh, like, we're gonna go get a tan. Let's all go get a tan right now. Everybody take your clothes off. And it's like, obviously, the guy is now very interested, and this is our scene that we have in many Jess Franco movies, where we have a very long shot of women getting undressed, moving around, talking. This is how he was able to deliver scripts on such good budgets and also on time and sometimes even early because he just kept the camera standing there and he was like, keep going, y'all, keep going, improvise, do whatever you can, keep the movie going. And he would just have it sit there. And this movie is it's that. A lot of the movie is staring at these women, pretending not to like each other, and they keep sneaking off to go have sex together. And one of the other groups, one of the people in that group will get killed off because they're angry at the other one because they're not having sex together. It's fine. I enjoy it. I wasn't as in the mood for it as I would any other night, so I only gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. But there was a pretty funny moment when they first arrive at the hotel rooms, and they get paired off, and they close the door, and one of them is like, "Oh, thank God we're together," because the hotel guy chooses what the group is, which is really fucking weird. But he chose like who sits or who rooms with who, and they get to the room. They're like, "Oh, thank God!" Like I didn't get with one of the prudes of the group, and they start making out, having sex, whatever. Camera's following them, and then the next scene is the exact same scene from the other group's perspective. And they go into the hotel, they close the room, they're like, oh, thank God we're not with those prudes. Let's have sex. And so they start having sex and they're making out and like all this stuff. And I'm like, y'all are all just exactly, like who y'all would be okay with. Like all of y'all are very comfortable sexually. Like none of y'all are prudes. Like y'all need to all have fun together because y'all have these weird
I'm the
hang-ups.
same.
Like it's really weird. Like but it was a funny moment, so whatever. Jess Franco comedy is weird. There was a weird part though when they're on the beach where somebody, because there's like skyscrapers like just off the beach, and you see a hand like go like this with a knife, and it goes like goes spinning in the air from like half a mile away and lands right beside this woman's head in the sand, and she's like, someone's trying to kill me. And I'm like, where the fuck did that knife come from? And the only spot is from like a mile away, so I don't know. That was a really funny moment to me. It was bizarre. It's what I love about Jess Franco is these really bizarre moments that can't be explained. But there are some really great shots throughout it. They did film at a like vacation resort, and so that's how they were able to get so many great locations during this film. But aside from that, group goes to the island and things are awry, and the people who are killing our woman, they're all part of a religious sex cult, and it's really bizarre. They wear awesome costumes, they kill people, they sacrifice virgins. Like it's great. Is your typical sex cult that you see in one of these movies. I haven't seen many of them in Jess Franco movies, so I guess this is a new one for me. But it was good. I mean, on any other day, I'm sure I'd like it more, but it's, good. Just above average, I would say.
Nice. I have seen this one,
Oh,
so I
yeah?
agree with you on everything you said. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen this one. This is one I've seen, but yeah, you hit it on spot. Locations. It's your typical. I mean, what we've seen: go to an island, get picked off one by one. The only thing where Franco goes different is on his sexual stuff. He goes off, like you said, it's repetitive, but he's gonna put it up there. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. Also, I'm right on. I'd give it like a 3.5 out of 5, just like you. If I was reviewing it, but I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you on pretty much everything you said there. I mean, it's a fun one for sure.
Oh, yeah. What's your next one?
With that, all right, I'm gonna go with 70s. I got more. I think I got three that are 70s and two 80s. So I'm gonna go with a '70s one, and this is 1976's Jack the Ripper, and it's Klaus Kinski. Um, this is the uncut version, which I recommend.
Ooh.
I mean, you could find this on eBay in the $20 range. It's not expensive. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I was psyched to see Klaus Kinski in his films. I didn't know they had a collaboration till, I mean, it was brought up. But yeah, he's difficult to work with. I know, but when he's on screen, man, he's a joy to watch.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's a doctor on this film. He's a doctor by day and a serial killer at night, stalking prostitutes. It's the Jack the Ripper story. But I mean, it's somewhat Klaus Kinski where you're just sold. He does that. He has that eerie creepiness to him where you're just like, man. He goes into a smooth talking doctor during the day, still weird. But then he's like, at night he's completely weird. Like where you're like, oh my god, this is the real guy here. But yeah, he's it's taking place in the older days there. That London feel to it in this film. But you get maybe 3 kills in this film. It's not much, but when they do hit, they pay off. I mean, there's one that just stayed in my head after the film. It takes place in like a park, and he's stalking this prostitute, and he gets her against a tree, and he's like stabbing her in the stomach. And that's why I'm saying get the uncut version because it shows it. It shows like her stomach getting opened up by the knife,
Oh wow.
and it's he's getting a sexual he's getting aroused by it while he's doing it,
Oh.
and he's pretty much stabbing her and humping her at the same time. And it's a real strange scene. Took me to like Maniac movies like that, and man, it's really dark. I put on here dark scene because he continues to mutilate her on the floor, and he's still like humping, like he's not stopping, and
Oh
you could
wow.
tell he's just like sexually frustrated, really bad. And that stayed in my head after the film. I was like, that is some fucked up shit. You know, I've seen Maniac and all that, but man, that's a character study if you ever had one there for someone. But yeah, it's good atmosphere. You get the city, like the London setting. You get fog, night, and it's just an eerie feeling. You're never comfortable when you're seeing the nighttime there's like this blind dude that's just he witnesses like every crime. For some reason he meets up with the prostitutes before they're gonna get killed. And they have to go by his senses because he don't have like sight. So I saw the perfume she was wearing. The smell of that knows she's a good girl. This one ain't. I don't know. It's hilarious, but it's a pretty disturbing film. I would have wanted a little more kills. That's my only nitpick on this film.
Hmm.
There's only a few, but I mean when they do happen, it's crazy. But there's a scene where he's got a girl in his domain or whatever, and he's cutting her tits off, dude, and showing the tits getting cut off. That's what I'm saying. Get the uncut version of this. Make
Hmm.
sure it's uncut. And then it's man, he's just constantly like humping his dead bodies. I don't know what. And later on, you find out it is a mommy issue. I guess his mom
uh,
was a prostitute, and it goes that trope. But man, this film was a blast. I mean, it's just Klaus Kinski. Once he hits the scene, he can do it, man. And this film was shot in 1 week,
wow.
so that's what I did find out about it. But
Sounds about right for Jess
yeah,
Franco.
definitely worth a watch, man. I got it. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but it might be a little higher. But if you like your character study, serial killer movies, this is one of them to watch, just for the weirdness of it. Like Jess Franco just comes with some weird stuff in this one, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely a good slasher film. Lower budget. I wish there was more kills, but overall, yeah, I'd say 3 out of 5. Jack the Ripper, 1976. But that's all I got. You got anything you want to imply there?
Oh yeah. I haven't seen that one, but I've heard of it because I no, I do not have it. But there is a 2 volume like super uh I guess analysis about the entirety of Jess Franco's filmography and career. And I remember reading a paper maybe in school from Will's class where we read like the collaboration with Klaus Kinski, because that's when I first learned about Klaus Kinski. And I was like, this guy's weird, but I know I've seen him somewhere. He just has that face that you've seen. And from how you've described it, it sounds exactly like what I would love because I love the serial killer character studies. There's nothing more that I love than watching the
Hmm.
regression of the human mind on camera. And I think serial killer movies are perfect for that. I love Zodiac.
Yeah,
And I have to ask, have you seen Zodiac yet?
I haven't seen that one.
And I'll say again,
I
you
need
gotta
to.
watch it. It's so fucking good. It's very brutal too. So I think if you love the violence in this, you'll love Zodiac for that. But Zodiac is
There's a
really.
scene in this one where he's. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
There's a scene in this. There's a scene when he has one of the victims, and he's calling her mommy, and he's like hugging her, like looking for cuddle, and it's weird, like, like he's by her breast. Like I don't know if he wants to get breastfed or
Oh wow.
it's definitely a mommy issue, and it's real creepy.
hmm
But yeah, this movie was a trip, man.
Yeah, it sounds really awesome, and I haven't seen it yet. So thankfully, the Severance sale happens in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I'll definitely pick up Jack
Yeah,
the Ripper. I'll add it to my list because there's a lot of Jess Franco movies
yeah.
out there.
Get
But
the uncut version.
yeah, and I would also recommend. Is it Hospital Massacre? The no X-Ray. No X-Ray. Yeah, X-Ray. On the Vinegar Syndrome
Hmm.
release. It sounds exactly the same as this movie because Klaus Kinski plays a doctor in that one, and he's a serial killer. And
Oh shoot.
he doesn't. He's not exactly Jack the Ripper, but it really leans into the hospital kind of occupation, and that's why it was double released with Hospital Massacre, with
Hmm.
the one really awesome actress. But that movie, both of those movies I loved. But yeah, sounds awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it's worth a watch for sure. Beyond that, owning it,
Yeah.
owning a copy is worth it.
Yep. So
But
my
that's
next
all I got, man. You could go on.
awesome. So my next one's actually a pretty short one. It's in 1980, so the 10 of the decade, and it's one that is also based off of a Marquis de Sade novel. Which again, I didn't look up which novel. It's sexploitation again. That seemed to be my genre of choice tonight, although I did not choose it. It was chosen for me. But this is a 4K restoration, so it looks pretty fucking awesome. That was one of the first things that I wrote on my notes. Is that it looked awesome, but the issue is that this is an exhibition copy that they got. Oh yeah, by the way, the movie that I'm talking about is a Sinfonia Erotica. Uh, the
Oh, nice.
English translation is Erotic Symphony, which is the coolest fucking name ever. But yeah, I can't show that cover too much. But the Severin was able to get a hold of like the original camera negatives that were being showcased. Well, not original camera negatives, but the best known source at the time when this restoration was done. And it's a 4K restoration, so a lot of the scenes don't look very good, but there are some scenes where the walking just looks absolutely fantastic because they really put the care in. And this was actually my third movie that I saw. And the story of it is that, or the plot of the movie is a nobleman and his two lovers, a teenage boy, a little problematic, and a runaway nun plan to kill his mentally fragile wife. It's a very, I mean, it's exactly the same as the one I was talking about earlier, Cries of Pleasure. That story, I'll read it again. A married man invites a woman to his house to live with him just before the arrival of his wife. Same exact story, almost, with this one, except this time it's a man inviting two men to his house. One is a teenage boy, and then no, it's one boy, the teenage boy, and then a nun. So it's a really weird dynamic going on, and that's sort of the strength of the movie. But what's really amazing is that it starts off really average. But this movie just gets better and better by the minute in the final like quarter of it, and it has the most manic, panic-inducing music that I've heard in a Jess Franco movie, outside of Two Undercover Angels, which I think is his best music in one of his films. But this one was just okay for the most part until the end when it really shot up for me. I don't remember too much about the movie itself. I mean, all of these really blend together, but this one's great. I mean, I have it number three. It's right in the middle. 1980.
Nice.
The teenage boy, technically he's teenage, but it's played by like a 30-year-old actor, so it's like it's not too horrible to watch. But at the same time, you're thinking like, oh, this man is having sex with a nun and a teenage boy. Like, this guy is fucking everybody who you shouldn't be fucking. Like, this is so like against the grain, and I have to half celebrate Jess Franco for really pushing the buttons here, because that's what he is. I mean, that's what he does. And he's always pushing that button. And this movie, he really pushes it. And it's interesting. It's not one I would watch soon again, but if I was to go like year by year with Jess Franco, I would probably watch this again and be excited to watch it, because there's a lot to work with this movie. It's another sexploitation, so everybody's having sex constantly throughout the runtime. So again, read the back of these before you watch them. I did not this time, and I should have, because all of them, it's basically copy and paste plot summaries. So, but I signed up for it. It's Jess Franco. I really enjoy him, and this one had really beautiful settings and costumes. The main woman here on the front, you can kind of see her, like, she has like a blue dress that slowly turns to red, and it's a very like Spanish setting that they are at. They're on a like rocky cliffs. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very, West Spain, I think, is where Jess Franco filmed this movie, because this is another one where they filmed it at a historical landmark. So they really utilize the settings well. Again, I mean, Jess Franco's the master at it. He will get every angle covered in order to fill up the time of the movie, and it's all beautiful, so you don't mind it. So that's really all I have to talk about with this one. But have you seen this one, or at least heard of it?
No, I haven't. I think I'm gonna add it to my Severin list now that for the sale, because I think I'm gonna have a lot of Franco in my card, honestly, after this.
That's how it was last year. I mean, I had like 15 Franco films, and that's all I got. And I'll probably do it again this time, and whatever box set is on sale. I don't know which ones are coming up, but
yeah,
maybe
I think I only have like 9 Franco films in my collection.
Oh yeah,
honestly, maybe, yeah.
Because you have Vampiros Lesbos, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay. Well, it's your turn if you want to.
All right, let's go on to the next one. And no, I've never seen that film, so I just went off what you were saying there, and it sounds really interesting. I'm gonna add it to the list.
All right.
But this is the one I got last Severin sale. I just had it on my shelf, so I finally decided to get to it. And this is Sexploitation. I'm going into it. As you've been in it, I'm joining you now with it. So we're gonna go to Macumba Sexual.
Oh, I did not know that was by him. I've seen that cover like a million times.
Yeah, this one I got in the bundle when I bought it last sale. So this is straight sexploitation. I mean, it's more hardcore porn than anything. It's basically about a real estate agent. She's on vacation with her husband, and she's having pretty much orgasmic nightmares. And she's visualizing this like black lady. She's a queen, or she looks like from like back in like older days, and she's entering her dreams in like erotic fashion, and you pretty much see her having like pretty much an orgasm near her husband while they're sleeping. So she's having these nightmarish visuals And this is a film where I was like, oh, what the? I think I texted you. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? You know what I mean? I told you, but
Yeah.
it's really weird. But it's got a dreamy atmosphere to it, and it pretty much to her trying to figure out why she's being having these visuals. So she later gets a call from her boss saying to go check out this property, and as she goes there, it's that queen that's in her dreams. So she meets up with her property, and that's who she has to pretty much bargain with. So she's like freaking out. She noticed something's weird. She has like these two sex slaves. They're a guy and a girl, and she carries them on a leash like a dog, and they'll just attack you and hump you for no reason.
Oh my god.
So it's like it's really bizarre. Like yeah, but yeah, there's a scene where she goes to the desert, this queen, and she picks out a statue and it's shaped like a dildo, and she starts pleasuring herself in the middle of the desert, and her two like slave people are licking her all over. It's
That sounds
real
like a
bizarre, but yeah,
sounds like a Alejandro Jodorowsky like scene.
yeah, it's something like that. But she there's a evil statue, and it's a this is funny to me because it's like a chicken, but I call it like a cock. It's a cock statue with a cock. If that makes any sense, because it's like a humongous cock in the statue, like a
Mm-hmm.
boner sticking out of the chin. So I'm like a cock with a cock. I started laughing, making a joke, but it's the queen's, it's the evil presence, I guess, like Exorcist, how they have that statue.
Oh
This is
yeah.
the one of this film.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah, but yeah, this film's a trip, dude. This is one where you get, as you say, you go on, it gets more good, better. Starts off, and then you go more and more, and you're like, oh shit, this is actually pretty interesting. And it's a supernatural film mixed with sexploitation. But I really liked the ending. I thought it was batshit crazy, and it, how could I put it? It had, it's one of those like that leaves you guessing what, what really happened and what didn't, what's real. But yeah, it goes to a real dark ending, and I really enjoyed it. It's like possession, kind of possession towards the end,
Hmm.
and it's really good. I thought this was a very solid Franco film. Um, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5. That's Macumba sexual. I mean it's sexploitation, but it does have a supernatural twist to it,
Hmm.
so it's worth a watch just for its weirdness alone. But yeah, that's all I got on that film. I thought it was one of the better ones out of the bunch I watched there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never.
Like
I,
give it time. It starts slow, but give it time.
I mean that goes with every Jess Franco movie, in my opinion. I always tell people, I'm like, you
Yeah,
just got to be patient. You just get past the intro, and you'll fall in love with it.
there's gonna be some shit happening, man. Towards that half, 3/4 of the film, it starts to amp up into insanity, pretty
Oh
much. But
yeah. Got anything else?
yeah, that's all I got on that one, man. That's it.
All right. So my second to last one, which I actually watched, I think first, because this is the only one that I had notes for. But this is one that you've actually talked about on the Withering Watchpile before, and it's one that I have the slipcover for. But
Oh,
oh yeah, I can show it. It's start out. But this is the film. Let me get the real name. Is Bloody Moon. The rape
mm,
of colleges, or college rape, I think is the Italian or the Spanish name for this film. And Jess Franco was pissed when that happened. There's a whole section of the interview that
ugh.
he discusses that about the Spanish name for the film. He was like, the rape of college kids. Like, what the fuck? I was like, there was no rape in this movie. What are you talking about? Like, because this movie is not a sex. I mean, it is sexploitation, but it's not like there's no rape. Like, people are just having sex, like just hanging out, and the people who are not having sex, they're the ones getting killed off. Like, so I mean,
It's opposite.
yeah, it's like it's not. It did not make sense, and Jess Franco just went off. But this one is 1981, so again, in that sort of 3 year span that I accidentally did. But the entire story is a slasher targets a language school. That's the entire movie. That's all it is. There's a man who is known to everybody but is not suspected. And we know who he is because the opening of the film is a sex scene at a wild summer pool party. And the man has a Mickey Mouse mask on in order to cover his facial scars because he has like some sort of burn scar all over his face. And he's using a Mickey Mouse mask to cover it. Which they, interestingly, they did not have it on this one because that is copyright. You cannot use the Mickey Mouse mask on promotional material unless you get permission from Disney, and they are not doing that. So I just noticed that when I glanced over at it, is that they changed the mask. So yeah, but the man is having sex with this woman. She's like, "Oh, you're so kinky. You're in a mask. Take your mask." It's just like Halloween. Come think of it, where the big tall guy has the ghost outfit on. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Get out of that. Oh, you're being silent. Oh, you're being sexy. Okay." And it's like, dude, like Michael Myers is double the height of your boyfriend. Like, come on. Freak out. Like, that is not your boyfriend. But in this movie, she's kind of like, oh, whatever. Like, let's have sex. And he just starts stabbing her in the stomach with scissors from the bedside table. And you can see everything. Blood is splashing. There's like one bladder that comes out. It's probably like a condom filled with like blood or something, because that's how you make that effect really cheaply. You get a condom, you fill it with blood. But what's really unfortunate about this release is that there are no subtitles. And I wanted to say that now before I forgot, because I had no idea what was going on in this movie because I couldn't hear anything. Because the visual restoration of the quality of the film is great. I mean, very lovingly restored. The audio was fine, but I need subtitles so I can really understand what is going on. And so most of this movie, I was just kind of watching it with my eyes and had to kind of do my best. But there's a really awesome cameo with Jess Franco at one point in this movie, and he does not do cameos that often. He will do them when he needs it, when somebody doesn't show up on set. And he's talked about this a lot because he loves the art of making film. And he knows how to do a lot of it. He knows how to use the camera. He knows how to edit. He knows how to frame a shot. All of this stuff. This is why his films are so great, is that he is able to do all of that. And in this movie, I assume the guy who was playing the doctor didn't show up, so Jess Franco plays the doctor, and he gives like 4 lines, maybe. He's like, what are you in for? You're feeling sick? That's not good. Here's some medicine. And like, that's it. That's like, Jess Franco was very smart when it came to like decisions on the fly. And I assume the doctor didn't show up on set. I have no idea. He didn't talk about it in the interview. But there's a really weird sort of pattern I'm noticing with his films. And this is, I think, with the genre in general, with slashers, and especially giallos. But I noticed it on this one, is that this is one of the best scenes of the movie, by the way. But there always seems to be a scene in a movie by Jess Franco where a kid swings by the scene, just out of nowhere. He just comes walking in. In this movie, it's like a seaside Spanish like cottage. And the guy with the Mickey Mouse mask is having sex with somebody and is about to kill her, or is tracking her down while she runs away from him. And the boy just happens to he's playing like Cowboys and Indians or something, and he like happens to notice this guy, and he's like, oh, what's happening over there? And there's no dialogue, and you're seeing the woman like looking behind, like trying to walk away from him, and the boy's like, oh, like she's cute, and so he'll go to like a window of the building and will watch, and then that's the next scene. And then they have sex, whatever, and the boy is saying, they're like, ooh, ah, like, because sex is going on. And then after that, I mean, this is the entire scene. This happens all the time in slashers and giallos, and I just wanted to bring it up because now Jess Franco is doing it, where there's a kid in the scene and he's the audience, and we are right there with him, wondering what is going on, because the scene starts right away with this woman running away from this man in a Mickey Mouse mask. And we're like, who is this guy? And the kid is like, who is this guy? Who is that woman? Oh, she's pretty. I'm going to watch. And he's watching, and then the woman runs away. And so the kid, like, goes to the other side of the building to hide and watch as the man tracks her down and starts stabbing her. And he goes, that's scary. And he runs away. I feel like that is a staple of the genre that not enough people have noticed. Because I was thinking back to Don't Torture a Duckling. Like, every kill scene involved in that movie includes a kid watching what is happening. And it happens in this one. I'm like, is this a genre staple that I just never noticed? Like, because this happens a lot.
They'll be in a doorknob peeking in a doorknob.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's always, there's always something. And with Jess Franco, he's so good at finding all these different angles to choose from, because a lot of exploitation directors who are like, okay, I'm here to make a paycheck over like 2 weekends, making this shitty sexploitation film. Just shoot it, just shoot the scene inside the room, pointing at them having sex. Jess Franco, on the other hand, he's like, you know what? I'm going to have some random country boy run into the scene, and he's going to be going around every angle of the house. He'll even go on top of the house and look down, and the camera will follow his perspective, and we get like this really dynamic, well-edited scene of this kill. And this is why I said this was the best scene in the film, because it's a really great, like, edited scene, along with, everything with the genre. But that was sort of the most exciting part of the movie. And on top of that, it ends with one of the coolest kills in a Jess Franco movie that I've seen, which is it's not a cottage. I remember now. It's actually a sawmill. So they have these giant metal blades to cut these giant not metal logs, but giant logs that are like, huge. I mean, the trees. And they're cutting them like in half. And the woman is like, oh, I'm feeling kinky or whatever. Like, why are you putting me, on the sawmill, on the saw table? And she's like tied up and she's screaming, but no one's around except for the boy. And he's just watching, whatever. And you see the blade slowly coming at her, like, dun, 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 dun. It's sort of like James Bond, is sort of what's going on. And the boy finally, like in the last second, is like, I'm going to save you, and pulls the electrical kind of, I don't know, safe thing where you pull it and it just shuts off immediately. He pulls that, and the guy is like, hey, kid, what are you doing here? Kicks the kid out and goes back to killing the guy, and he turns the machine back on, and it decapitates her, and it like, oh yeah, her head starts spurting out blood because her body has fallen like onto the ground because she was like tied up against the saw table, and her head starts spurting out. And this is why this movie was not given like a full 4K restoration, is that scene was cut out from the original camera print and was only found on like a European VHS or something. So it's in like VHS quality. So it's sort of like watching Exorcist 3, where you see like the really awesome scenes, but it's all in VHS quality. It's the same thing with this one. And I loved it. That was a really awesome scene, and I was just like, I love this one. I really want to talk about it. But the rest of the movie is a scarred man just kind of hunting people down, killing them really gruesomely. It's amazing. There's some really good portions and shots throughout, but the first half is pretty lackluster, shockingly, because I love this movie a lot, but again, the first quarter of it to half of it, it just drags on, because it starts off with a great kill. All of Jess Franco's movies do, in order to kind of get your attention, and then it's like, okay, exposition, dialogue, exposition, until we get to the next scene where, like, that's when the grisly serial killer is now on the prowl, and that's what this movie is. But there's a lot less music in this movie, which I wasn't really happy with. I wish there was more, because Jess Franco usually has like really exciting, bombastic music. I mean, I always talk about Two Undercover Angels. That entire movie is like a funk soundtrack. I mean, it's amazing, and it's like a disco movie. Like, it's awesome. But this one had like next to no music, and I was a little disappointed by that. But there was some behind the scenes stuff that I was able to get, which was that
Nice.
the producers were like, "Hey, we want you to make a movie to do like a horror movie. We want you to do a horror movie that's also very sexual, and we want you to come up with 50 different horror movie moments to put into this film. They don't even have to be connected. Just do something. Have 50 not scenes, but just moments of scariness. So a cat coming out of the closet, a hand punching through the window, like anything." And Jess Franco was like, "Sure, I can do that. Like, I'm an awesome for hire director, basically." And ends up that the actress that showed up, who was supposed to be the main nude actress of the film, she got married like the week before she started shooting this movie. And she showed up on set and was like, "I don't want sex. I don't want any sex scenes. I don't want to be nude." And Jess Franco was like, "Who gives a shit?" And the producer was like, "No, we want you nude." The producer was like, "What are you talking about? Like that's how we get money is, nude." And Jess Franco was like, "It's not important. It's not important to the script. You asked for 50 scary moments. You're going to get 50 scary moments. I'll do whatever else I want." And he was talking about this. And it was really funny. At one point of the movie, or at least of the shooting of it, not shooting, but when they preparing to shoot, Jess Franco was told that Pink Floyd would be doing the soundtrack to this movie. And he was so excited. During the interview, he was like, I was never so disappointed in my career than when I showed up and it was just some Austrian musician. And he was like, "I was so pissed. All I wanted was Pink Floyd. They were at the top of the game at this time. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, like all this stuff." And I showed up, and it was just this Austrian DJ.
Oh.
And Jess Franco was like so pissed off about it. So he hired like 3 like prog rock groups that sounded very similar to Pink Floyd with his own money, and like got music from them and added it onto the Austrian musicians' music. So the music is all over the place during the entire filming. So that's why I say there's not much music in this one, because it doesn't fit at all. And it's just like you're getting bombarded the entire movie. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, Pink Floyd would have made this movie a whole lot better, like with the music.
Yeah.
Like that would have been pretty awesome. And they were actually supposed to do Jodorowsky's Dune, just to bring that back. They signed on to do that. So another what if with that. I'm still upset that we didn't get Jodorowsky's Dune, even if it wouldn't have been a good watch. I would have loved to have seen it. But can't see anything else. He talks about directing pornos, and he says it's the easiest fucking thing to do, and he hates it because you can't do anything interesting. He talks about how when you set up a shot for a porno, there's only one way to do it, which is pornographic shots. Camera looking over a group having sex. Very close point of view shot of, penis going into vagina. Like all this stuff. And he's like, this is the most boring aspect of making a porno film. All the scenes in between those sex scenes are the most fun that I have, because I get to like have fun, with the cinematography and, the story and, all that. And I was like, hey, that's great. Like, I've always wondered what his attitude on directing pornos were, because I haven't seen like any interviews with him talking about that. So I was pretty thankful that this release did that, and I happened to see it because I didn't watch the other behind the scenes, and I wonder what I missed. But eventually, I'll go back and watch it. But yeah, this one was great. I mean, again, you just gotta stick through the first 20 minutes, and you'll get to the really great stuff.
Like every Franco film we've talked about. Stick through it. Don't give up.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen this film, so I love it too. I haven't seen it in a while, so I was kind of trying to bring back to mind when you were talking about it because I've forgotten this film. It's been a while since I've watched it, but it's one of my favorites. It's a slasher. It's what I love in horror films, slasher elements and that bizarreness because I watch a lot of Italian cinema, so it gave me that feel too, how weird it could weird out and stuff like that. But man, Pink Floyd, why? Why'd you let Jess Franco down? It's my only question. That would
uh,
have been awesome to have. It's like you
yeah,
get Goblin and someone else shows up.
yeah. I
The
mean
Thomas Goblin and
yeah,
you
I've
know what I
seen
mean.
behind the scenes before where people have been like, "Yeah, we were told we were having Goblin, and they didn't get it."
Disappointment. Yeah, I personally love this film. This is one of the first Franco films I've seen, or it could be the first one I've ever seen from his. But
Yeah, I think so.
man, what an awesome film! I agree with you. Love it.
Yep.
But that's all I got. I don't got too much to say on that. You pretty much put together what I thought, my thoughts on it.
Nice. Yeah.
Shall I go on to my film now? All right. So now I'll go into my second to the last film here, and it's gonna be another Severin release, Count Dracula.
I almost watched that one for this one, but I did
Did you?
not.
1970.
It
Oh
didn't fit
shit!
in the
I was worried you
1980s.
did. This is a Severin release. Christopher Lee, man. What can I say? This is your Dracula film. It's Jess Franco's version of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Did I say it correct? I hope I said the name right. Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is his version, pretty much. So you get your typical Dracula story. I mean, you got uh, a doctor going to visit Dracula in his castle, um, try to investigate, get a story out of it or whatever. As he's doing this, he goes to a creepy castle, of course, and you got an older Christopher Lee in this film. I mean, he has gray hair and a mustache, and it's really interesting because it's makeup that does it. He's not really that old. They make him look older in the film, and it's for a purpose. But what's interesting about this is it's a Hammer. It's not a Hammer film. Let me tell you straight up, but it does have that feel to it. But it's different because it has Christopher Lee playing Dracula, and he's put to pretty much drink the blood of maidens, young maidens, and it does the opposite. It makes him younger. So that's the purpose of the gray-haired Christopher Lee, the older looking. So as he's eating, he's drinking blood throughout this film. He's getting younger. You even see you could tell he put hair dye and all this in his hair, but that's the purpose of it. You got Klaus Kinski's back in this as a mental patient. Man, it's just great. He's Renfield in this film, and he's the victim of his daughter who Dracula murdered. Has he drunk her dry of blood or whatever, drank her blood till she died, and he ended up in a mental hospital afterwards. So he's getting treatment, going crazy. You just see Klaskinski at his best again, being that weird, oddball character. But he's also controlled by Dracula. He has a control over him since he did this, and he'll have him murder someone if he wants to. He'll do like mind control, and he'll do whatever he says. He's under his thing, but it it's really solid. I like this. You get the blood hair. Oh, here I go. Blood eyed Christopher Lee with the blood. You get that look from his old Hammer films, and he got a character playing Van Helsing that I thought was really good. He's older, and it's kind of interesting because he doesn't really fight off Dracula straight up. He has younger guys because he's already an older Van Helsing, but they have to use his knowledge because they pretty much don't know what the hell they're doing. So he has to guide them through it. Like you gotta stick a stake through their heart. That's how you kill them. And they're like aiming right here, right here. He's like having to throw where to stick the stake or whatever. It's funny, man. But Yeah, this one's a blast. I like this film. This is one of my favorite ones, and you can't get no one better at Dracula than Christopher Lee. This guy just he's Dracula in my eyes. You see him go out and he's got the creepiness. He does his best here. He knows when to attack. All that. Great gothic horror setting. Um, I saw a little bit about Franco on a where he said on a documentary he claims that because there's a scene where Klaus Kinski's in a mental hospital and he's eating bugs, and Franco claims he ate real bugs, like he was really eating flies and bugs. So that's what Franco claims. But uh, Franco had Vincent Price in mind to play Van Helsing in this,
What?
but of course he couldn't do it because of a contract. I guess he was under contract with someone else.
Ah, dang.
So he got Christopher Lee, but he couldn't get Van Helsing. He couldn't get Vincent Price, but this guy does a great job. I'm glad they hired him. He looks menacing, and he's got that mustache and like the gray hair back. He looks like a he looks. I thought he did a solid job, but yeah, you get your showdown. I like it. You have Christopher Lee turning to a bat, and he's doing his signature Dracula the way he knows how to do it. I mean, if I wouldn't have known this wasn't a Hammer film, I would have thought it was. It's everything you'd see in a Hammer film, and pretty satisfying ending. And this is why I'm going to give credit to Franco. He changed the story. He has him aging, having to get younger. I mean, we probably have seen this before, but it's just the way he does it. It's just like it's different. But overall, this was a good film. I highly recommend Count Dracula. This one definitely worth a watch. A pickup, own, yeah. But I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5, solid. But that's all I got on that film. You got anything you want to share there, man?
I do not, but I have it right here. Like within, this is one of the
Oh
movies
shoot!
that I did not show. But I was very close to watching it because I saw that cast. I was like, oh, Count. I think because when I bought it, I was like, oh, a Jess Franco Count Dracula movie. Like, who's in this? Oh my fucking god, it's Christopher Lee and Klaus Kinski. I have to get this, and I got
Oh
it, and I
yeah,
still haven't seen it. So, I guess I'll have to watch it like ASAP, maybe this weekend, because that sounds
Klaus
amazing.
Kinski is nuts, dude. He's nuts in this movie, literally.
Are there any like sexploitation elements in this one, or is it like mostly horror?
This is mostly horror. You're not gonna get. It's like if you're watching a Hammer film. It's like
Hmm.
I mean, you get erotic scenes, but there's not much skin. It's mainly the blood, the sucking on the neck, or
Hmm.
it's very tame. That's what I was kind of in shock about, but for a Franco film. But yeah, it's one of the more tamer Franco films,
Yeah, it's
but done
funny.
well, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I got the volume 2 of the Christopher Lee box sets from Severin, and one of them is called Dracula and Son, which was one of my favorite ones of the box set. I really love the commentary by Kat Ellinger, who I have great appreciation for her. And she was talking about Christopher Lee's sort of opinion about playing all these Dracula movies. And it was by the 60s that he was absolutely done. And he was just sick of it. He wanted to do something new, something that would challenge his acting chops. And it was this movie and Dracula and Son, which was like 1971, maybe 72, that he was like, okay, fine, I will do it one more time. And he did it for this movie. And he only did it because he had a really great respect for Jess Franco, because he had worked before with him on some other projects. I'm not sure, I haven't seen them. But apparently he was like, hey, like Jess Franco wants to make a Count Dracula movie. He's going to do something new. Like everybody knows Jess Franco. He's going to do something unique. He's going to do something fun. And he did. And so Christopher Lee was like, hey, like that was a great project. I enjoyed it. I worked with Klaus Kinski, which They were only on screen 3 times total on ever in movie history.
Oh,
It was this movie, one of the Severin Christopher Lee movies, and like one other one because there's a 1950s movie where they had like 2 lines to each other in that Christopher Lee box set. And that's like the only time that they actually spoke to each other. So I'm curious in this one how much they actually talked because it was probably a long time coming for both of them because they both really liked each other. And Christopher Lee had zero issues with Klaus Kinski and actually was like a fatherly figure according to the commentary that I listened to. So it's really interesting now that we're actually talking about this one because I haven't seen it, but I've heard so much about it, and the more I talk about it, the more I remember. So I definitely need to watch it. It sounds amazing.
yeah. They said that Franco had to talk Christopher Lee into doing this role. He didn't want to do it.
Hmm.
Yeah, he talked him into it and told him it's going to be a good script. Read it, and he talked him, got him in it. And there's a scene where Christopher Lee and Klaus Kinski are at the mental hospital, and they're face to face, and they're talking for a while, but it's not a long scene, but there's interaction, a lot of interaction, but maybe that's probably more than they probably done, as you said. They were really together much on scene on set. So, but they said that Christopher Lee and Franco became best friends after this. That they were always chatting with each other. Respect just changed after this film, so it must have been a good outcome. I mean,
Yeah.
what I read.
That's like one of my favorite like friendships now, like movie history. Like we
Yeah,
all love like Scorsese and De Niro or like, you know, any of them. And here we have like one that not many people know about, Christopher Lee and Jess Franco. Like that's an unlikely pair if I've ever known.
it said they were the greatest friends after this movie. Probably went and drank alcohol, did cocaine together, whatever they. No, I'm just messing around. But yeah, that's all I got on this film, man. Go ahead and you could go on to your next.
Awesome. So this is the one that I watched fourth. So I actually saw this one last night and I loved it. Probably about I think I would rate Bloody Moon higher, but I've already talked about it, so it's a little late. But this one is up there. This one is from 1983. It is called Black Leather Leather Whip.
Hmm.
Another sexploitation film. So I really hit the jackpot tonight. But this movie's plot is all about a married woman who hires a detective to retrieve compromising photos of her being nude and all that. So yeah, it's a sexploitation. We start right into the action, and I said that this movie doesn't waste any time because right off the bat we have people having sex and people getting murdered, and it's interesting. It's greatly shot, great music, everything. We have that banger Jess Franco intro that we always have. And then we have a repeat cast member, Robert Foster. When I first read his name on the back of it, I thought it said Robert Forster. And I was like, holy shit, this is one of his first roles. But then I watched the movie and I was like, where's he? Where's Robert Forster? And it ended up it was Robert Foster. And I was really disappointed. But he's great in this. He's pretty good in this. He was also in Symphonia Erotica. Erotic Symphony is the English title. And so I wrote down that they probably got a deal to make both of these films together because they both came out in the same year. So I have a pretty good Jess Franco radar in my head now to sort of predict what the behind the scenes were because it's pretty consistent throughout his entire career how he worked. And Symphonia Erotica, I'll make sure. Oh, it's 1980, but uses the same cast for the most part. It may have reused a few scenes, but I should have looked it up more specifically. But one thing that's really interesting is that the main theme for the story is incest, which is not something I was,
Oh,
I guess, expecting. Because, warning, there was full on cousin action and sex the entire film. And they say it like, because one of the revealing photos, that woman, she is having sex with a cousin. And I think her husband walks in and he's like, hey, like, what are y'all doing? And they're like, oh, we're just cousins. Like, this is just what we do. We're just having fun. And the husband's like, okay. And like joins them. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, so it's your very typical, like, Jess Franco, just fuck it, fuck it and let's have fun. Like, let's just go push every button that we can. And we have a full range of different sexual activities going on. But this movie got really weird after that because, for the most part, it is your very standard noir mystery. We're trying to find the photographs. There's an investigator. He's smoking. He's always like, oh, okay, toots. Like, what are you talking to me for? Like, very old-fashioned, detective. And then it just turns into, like, BDSM festival, and that everyone starts getting whipped and abused by women in leather. And everybody is wearing, like, golden aluminum space gear, like space robes, and they have, like, sci-fi, like, costuming on. It's really weird, and I loved it. And then it just suddenly turned into a softcore porno film because we get full, like, explicit, like, dick into vagina, like, in your face shots. And I was like, oh my god, like, I was not expecting this. I mean, it is called Black Boots Leather Whips. I should have known that it would have been kinky. But I was really surprised by it. And it was towards the end of the movie that everything clicked together about why I love this movie. Because I remember now why I love it, and it's because it's a foreshadowing 40 years in the past of Infinity Pool by Brandon Cronenberg. It's exactly the same, almost, outside of the really weird aspects. Have you seen Infinity Pool? Okay, so what I'm talking about, the one aspect that they do not have is everything with the body switching. That's the only thing they don't have in this movie.
oh.
Everything else is similar, and it was weird to me. So I was watching it, and I was like, I recognize, like, I wasn't like in my head, I recognize this, but I was noticing similarities. And by the end of the movie, I was like, I think I saw somebody post on Letterboxd that they had seen Infinity Pool. And I was like, oh my god, that character is Mia Goth. That character is Alexander Skarsgård. And like all this stuff. And it was amazing. It's not like one-to-one. I mean, it's not the same plot, but it's very similar conceptually into what they were tackling, sort of the different themes of sex and drugs. And I mean, Infinity Pool really leaned into the drugs. I mean, that was my favorite part of the movie. But this movie was just really fun to watch. Although I think comparing this to Bloody Moon, I think Bloody Moon would probably be my number one if I had, like, I don't know, talked to you before this about the movies, but that wouldn't have happened because we don't tell each other what movies we saw. But I think I'm leaning towards Bloody Moon to be number one, but I don't want to change it. So we'll say they're tied for number one. I'll compromise, but these two movies were awesome. I really enjoyed it. So that's really all I have with that one. What about you?
Well, to start off, I've never seen it, but once you said Infinity Pool, I'm sold because I loved Infinity Pool. That movie was just crazy. I really enjoyed it. Mia Goth she's awesome in that film. But
oh yeah,
yeah, that really caught my attention. I like that strangeness, and it goes to that bizarre kind of psychosexual route, stuff like that, or whatever you'd call it. But yeah, I've never heard it. I'm gonna look out for that one. Another one I'm adding to my list here.
Oh yeah, Seven.
Yeah, but that's all I got on that one. I really don't know too much, but I'll look out for it.
Yeah, it's very psychosexual. That's definitely sort of the genre that this movie fits in.
Should I go to the last film here?
Here we
My
go.
last one. All right. So this is my favorite film, first time watch, and you showed it off earlier. She killed in
Oh,
ecstasy.
I almost saw that too.
Damn. We
Wow.
made it without doubles, barely.
Woo! 10 different Jess Franco. We only covered 1/18th of his films.
There, man, we got a long way to go, longer out.
Yep.
But I'd had this film. Actually, I took it out of the plastic to watch it. It was
Ooh.
on my shelf. So yeah, this is definitely a revenge film, which I love. I love revenge films. And you got a it's got the nudity, it's got the sexuality, the everything on this one. It's got the feel of a Jello to me, even though it's not one, because it gave me Jello vibes. There's not really a mystery to it, but I mean it more of the feel, like the setting and stuff. But you pretty much got a doctor. He's This is the strange part. Is you got a doctor who's experimenting in human embryos, and he's came across something that I don't know what. It never explains what the hell he's doing with them, but uh, or at least I didn't catch it. But he takes it to this board like of scientists, and they pretty much humiliate him and tell him that he's crossed the law and he needs to shut it down. And because I guess he started with animals and then he went to human beings. They show
Oh.
actual fetuses in a jar, like
Oh.
looks of them and stuff like that. But they humiliate him and tell him that he's insane and he needs to shut it down. And they're gonna this is criminal act right here if he doesn't stop. And they're just making fun of him. I mean, pretty much ambushing him, embarrassing him in front of everyone, and it leads him to go insane. He goes completely insane. He's thinking that I'm here to help people. He keeps saying in his head, I'm here to help people, and he's going crazy. And as this is happening, his wife, man, she is some eye candy. Let me tell you in this movie. But
Hmm.
she's watching him. I mean, they have sex when he's normal, and then she comes in completely naked, and he's laying on the bed completely insane. He has no, and she's just sitting there like, aren't you gonna fuck me or whatever? And he won't do it. And she just starts crying, like just out crying, knowing that her husband's gone, and pretty much she's not gonna get anything from him. So she starts to go mad herself, and she goes to this board, sees all these doctors talking about him. She sneaks in and gets this like anger towards everyone there, and she gets back to their villa or wherever they're at. It's a real nice setting. You got a good landscape. That's what Franco does. He puts those. How you were explaining, he has some good visual settings, locations, islands, stuff like that are all in this film. Um, but as she's this is kind of minor spoiler alert, so I don't know. But he does commit suicide. It says it
Ah.
on the plot.
Oh,
I
does it?
mean, yeah. So and she goes crazy. She loses it, and she goes on a revenge. I mean, she's she uses seduction and revenge. This is what I love. This is my type of film. And she seduces all these like all of them one by one, and pretty much kills them in vicious ways, different ways. And you do get some good stab things. There's a lot of stuff that's off camera, but you do get like the aftermath, like the you see there's a penis cut off during one of the scenes.
Nice.
It was awesome. It was awesome. uh, but yeah, this one, man, is a trip. This is a crazy movie. Kind of reminded me of Thriller in a way, but just more not as exploitive as Thriller, but it does get you in that revenge fashion. And man, this lead actress is just she's great in every aspect, and it has a satisfying ending. Everything I want to see in a film. But man, this one was a treat. My favorite. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And I'm kind of being a little biased because it is something I do enjoy, which is revenge. I love revenge films. That's the aspect I live for, and it's it doesn't disappoint. So Yeah, that's gonna be my thoughts for 1970s. She killed in ecstasy. Highly recommend it.
Well, I also have that one, so I will have to
Yeah.
watch that soon. I was very grateful that I did not choose it. It also sounds a little bit like I Spit on Your Grave, although that one is a lot
Hmm.
more focused on the revenge aspect and kind of the. Uh, I mean, we've all seen it. I don't need to explain it, but yeah, Thriller is another great metaphor, or I guess analogy for it. But yeah, I'm interested in it. I don't really know anything about it.
Man, it's like I said, it's great, and like we said, Franco takes a different route. Like you say, I spit on your grave. Thriller, I said those have rate in it. This one doesn't. It doesn't need it.
Mm,
The stories. It goes on a different aspect. Why I explained to it why, but she. I mean, you'll get probably more brutal stuff in I Spit on Your Grave and in Thriller, but this one all around was solid. I had no complaints on it.
hmm.
But
Well, cool. I guess that's our last films that we have to talk about. Do you have an idea for what theme you want? I have the notebook here if you want me to reread it.
I have two at mind. I don't know if they
Ooh.
work, but I don't know. One might be on the list, but I have summer themed horror films.
Ooh.
Anything to do with the summertime could be any horror genre. Or I got a. I don't know if we've done this before, but gothic horror.
Ooh. Let me see. I'll write it down and then I'll see.
Hmm.
We've done Best Directors, I guess, debut. Blood and Gore. Something Monsters. Donald Pleasance featured. I guess we never did that one. I think we gave up on that one. But I
Oh
don't
man.
think we've done Gothic Hallway. I feel like we
Okay, I wasn't sure
have
on that one.
somehow, but
I
I
feel like we have too.
I like the summer one, and we can have the Gothic one be like September or something, October maybe. But do you want
Okay,
to do the summer one? Is that your choice?
that was my number one choice from for me.
Okay, awesome. Because I
I just want to make
have,
sure you can do it too.
yeah, I should be able to find some. I mean, I have a few just like I'm just seeing like some movies that I'm like, yeah, that tells me summer. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. I mean, I even have some criterions that I haven't even seen that would fit
It could
into
be
that.
water, like in the water, or just a forest. It don't matter. Just something that
Hmm.
camping, like it could be in a wilderness horror film. It doesn't matter.
I come back with just Friday 13th. You can kind of see the box set right there.
Yeah,
You can see the side of it, but
yeah. Hint, hint.
my first one is part 5, and then my next one is just me going through the entire series for one. That'd be disappointing.
For what?
Just do my least
Be like,
favorite Friday 13th ones.
he was at a truck stop. It counts.
Yeah, it's at a camp, whatever.
He passed by a river.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
yeah, whatever. Watch like a really like snowy themed one, but there's one scene of like a flashback in like the summer.
He was at the beach in a flashback.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right,
Tom
so
Atkins on Night of the Creeps.
yeah, I haven't seen Night of the Creeps
Oh,
actually.
you haven't seen Night of the Creeps?
Yes,
Wow.
one day I'll watch it. It's just one
There's
of
a
those.
flashback where he's at a beach.
Oh yeah.
He's with a mixed drink and a cigar. He's sitting at a beach. He's all a lady coming, a girl, of course, coming out of the pool, and he's there like
Mhm.
Tom Atkins style.
Oh god. But okay, so we have a theme now. So we have summer. Are we doing hallway or just summer themed? So it can be like,
Summer horror.
oh, summer hallway. Ooh, okay.
Yes.
I have some good ones for that then. All right, so summer themed hallway. This will be a very interesting episode, and we'll actually try to do it sooner than the last episode. In terms of like
All right.
the time between one episode to the other, we'll do it more soon. Now that I've gone through a
Yeah.
lot of my kind of unwatched movies. I mean, 5 of these movies I never seen, so that knocked out a substantial section of my TBR, or my watch pile, which is not withering, but I guess it's weathered quite a bit. I don't have much left in my to be watched because I haven't bought anything in a while. But anyways, uh,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for watching, and thank you Leon for joining back with me today. This was a whole lot of fun. Uh, Always happy to do it.
Thank you, Christian, and I appreciate you having me as a guest, man. It's always an honor, and I look forward to future episodes. This is fun on the Withering Watch Pile. Everyone, check it out.